Well, hello,
Hello
Brian
again.
Cardell.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Not too bad. Now, do I pronounce your name correctly when I say
Yeah.
Cardell, or is it
Yeah.
the different? Yeah. I always have problems with people's names, but um, well, I'm glad that I don't mispronounce it.
It's okay.
So,
You can mispronounce it anyway. I'm not a big fan of it. I
what
I
of
always
your?
feel strange saying my own name. Uh,
Why is that?
I don't know. Just never have liked it. I never really identified with it. It, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, just don't like my last name, and I don't feel like even I say it in a way that sounds right. So
So is
call
that?
me whatever you want.
Well, no. I want to go. I mean, if you don't want to be called bro card out, no. I just wondered because it's one of those nights. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and I think I mentioned it on here as well. Was that I knew this person from my daughter's school. She was one of the parents, but her name was either Helena or Helena, and I could never remember the. However many times she told me, I could never remember which one it was. I
Yeah.
always felt uncomfortable talking about it. It's just one of
Yeah.
those things. But anyway, I was thinking just before, what is your favorite fruit?
Plums.
Do you have a favorite fruit? That's the
Plums.
question. Sorry?
Plums.
Plums. You like
Yes.
plums. So you definitely have a favorite fruit. Because some people don't have they just say, well, I like all fruit.
I don't know. I don't like all fruit actually, but I like plums, I like peaches, I like cherries. I have apple tree and a peach tree and
In
uh
your in
plum
your
tree in my yard.
yard.
And yeah, Cardell Estates. Um, mhm. Yep, not to be confused with like Lawson Manor, you know.
Yes,
I
yes,
just
of course.
borrow
Uh,
that from Bruce. Yeah.
I could see behind you some of your artwork, I presume.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of it back there. What's not on that side or all over my house or whatever. I have there's hundreds of paintings and drawings and stuff. So,
And how much of your time do you spend doing that?
um, well, this is an interesting and personal question. If you want a story about it,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
no,
Look, I
I
don't
mean,
want
I'm
to
happy to
ask.
share it.
Yeah,
I'm happy to share it. I just don't know how interesting it is for anybody. So
well, it's interesting to me. I mean, I'm just doing this for me and
I
for
was a
you.
little kid, and I really liked to do like art, and I thought I was like, better than average, let's say, so it kept me interested because, people would say it's really good, and
Mhm.
then somewhere along middle school, high school, you get mashed together with like lots of new people, and eventually there's somebody who's just like so much better than you, and I don't know, just like found other things that I did instead, that I just thought
Mhm.
like I don't know, I was put off by not being nearly as good at it. And so I just stopped. And then I got engaged when I was 19 or 20. And I changed sort of like my whole life at that point in time. Like after, like in high school, I smoked a lot of pot, drank a lot of beer,
Mhm.
didn't go to class very much. uh, was not interested in academics. I thought everybody in my family ever has swung a hammer, so probably gonna swing a hammer, and I'm okay with that because I've been doing it summers and holidays and stuff like that for years already. And yeah, so I like left behind my friend group and like spending all of my time with her and her family, and we were engaged for a couple of years, and then we broke up, and I was like sad in a like new kind of way. You know what I mean? Like in a way that I had not been sad before. And I didn't know what to do with my time because I didn't, like that was all of my time was with her family. I wasn't sad about her so much. It was more like, what is my life now? Because I thought I was gonna make my life that,
So how long ago was this? Sorry.
Yeah, I was like 20. And then I painted and drew pretty much constantly, like hours a day for 5 years until uh, I met someone, and then I was with them for 13 years. And in that whole time, I kind of didn't draw and paint. Um, there were just other things to do, and then after that time, we split up, and I was by myself again. And I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll draw and paint. And so I did the same thing, hours a day for several years. And then I decided that I would date again. And I've been with my girlfriend for about 2 years, and I do not spend very much time doing it anymore. So,
Wow.
um, it's a long-winded reply to, uh,
No, no, it's really interesting perspective though that you
mm,
like. It sort of feels as if at times your creative urge just comes out or needs to come out, and
mhm.
in the process of coming out, you need to divest yourself of relationships or
Well, I
some.
know you've talked on this before about like that you had like depression, right?
Oh
Uh
yeah.
so I've had like my whole life anxiety, and at times, depression is heightened in those, and for me it's always been like really therapeutic. So yeah, I think that's a big part of why I find myself doing it, because you can get lost in it, like
Mm.
um you quickly stop thinking about um all of the terrible things and just
So
get really focused on this thing. It's a little bit like when you're programming and you get into like flow, and you're, yeah,
so how does your web standards work fit into this?
it doesn't. I've painted a bunch of web standards people. I think our, let's see, settings are, well, I don't know. There's just happens to be right next to me. This is Ken Christensen. I don't know if you know, he was from Intel. He was on tag for a few years. But I was supposed
Yeah,
to send him that paint. I was supposed to send him that painting like uh to everybody who's a web standards person if I painted you, and then I said I would send you a painting and didn't. Sorry. There's a lot of,
yeah. I think you said several times to me that you paint me. I'm
did I? Yeah, probably.
no,
Uh
no, not at all. It's interesting that you should mention the painting though, because I was going to talk about the tag a bit
mm,
and you being on it, and I was thinking about my views. Like I don't know if you've seen sort of like early days, the early 2000s, the sort of way that people from the W3C and the high, the sort of players were the early those people that went on to form the tag, but how they were memorialized, like in glass sort of mosaics
what? No.
and
Really?
bro- yeah, and I'll share it with you. I was showing it to Mike Smith
That's
because
wild.
it just seems like that these people are now the tag. Like when I looked at some of the people's, I could still scare me, but overall, people looked approachable. Maybe it's because I'm getting older
Hmm.
and I'm getting to know people better and be more relaxed. I don't know. But anyway, the people on the tag seemed more grounded than they had been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but both of those things are probably true because I know that I think I was very intimidated by some of them for sure. Um, and now not so much, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, that's I mean, for in the sense that I mean, the sense that well, you said intimidated, and it sort of sounds rather sinister. I mean, that what I think it is that it's an inability on my part, for example, to be able to communicate effectively with certain people because I don't understand how the language to communicate in. But beyond that, it's just unfortunate that I'm unable to. But I feel as if I'm more able to with the current tag,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
that's
good.
helped, by knowing people like yourself and also
Hmm.
dealing with uh, getting to know Lola and having worked with Matthew.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
okay, so I asked you about how the, the things that you do outside of your work. And you said, well, not that really. So how did you get it? Like, what drew you into this line of work?
Um, so at this time, they are connected in this way. So at this time, when I was like drawing and painting in my 20s, my mom was involved in a thing here, and she always told me like we know this famous artist, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, mom, you know. And he was here one time when I went to in Pittsburgh when I went to pick up my mom, and I was early, and he had walked outside early, and we were just staying there talking awkwardly. I kind of didn't even really know who he was, and he said, "Oh, your mom told me you've been doing some art. Um, I'd love to see it sometime." And I'm like, "Oh, I have some in my car. Hold on." So I went and got it, and he is looking at it, and he says, "Oh, this is actually a lot better than I expected it to be." And like, if you had any formal training or anything. Um, so anyway, he invites me to, he says, "Hey, well, if you're ever in Vermont, you can come swing by my studio, and people pay me thousands of dollars to look over my shoulder. You can just come and whatever for free. I even like put you up on a air mattress in my house or whatever. I said, great. How about next week?" And I don't think he was serious in retrospect, but then it was awkward to say no. So I went, and a weekend turned into a week, and it turned into 2 weeks. And then he offered me a job. And I was like, suddenly working for him in rural Vermont. And there's nothing to do. And I don't really have a life or anything at that point in my life, which was part of the problem. And so he had this studio, and he had bought a computer that was just sitting in a box unopened. And I said, well, why don't we open it? And we got it open, and I'm like, wow, I can do all these things to like help your business. And the web was brand new. And I was like, well, let's put your art on the web, let's, and yeah, that just led to another opportunity to another opportunity. Then I got a job working for a little company in uh, Burlington, Vermont, that was had a multimedia arm. They did a lot of stuff, and they were starting to do web stuff. So uh, yeah, and that's about the time when I learned about W3C, because it was just being formed, and you used to get all your news through magazines.
Yeah,
And I saw these pictures of like Tim and these Illuminati of the web, right? Like and I was like, wow, I'm sold. Like I'm in. Like, whatever they do is going to be the best. I also was like really big into like the Gang of Four Patterns book. at the time. And I think that I was sort of like uh, maybe also coming out of a place in my life where it was like a lot of religion. And so I was like looking for somebody to give me the stone tablets and tell me the right way, This is
Yeah.
just going to be the way we do it. XML, XSLT, XPath, XQuery, XLink, XPointer.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, and how that academic, well, I sort of define it. I'm not saying it's the right definition, but it seemed like that academic approach
Mhm.
was superseded because um, it was a dead end in the end. Well, not a dead end, but there was other priorities that the web was looking at. Can you speak to that? I mean, am I
I think
right?
it's interesting, right? Like if you think about it, like I think that when you look at W3C when it was founded, I think like XML, the whole world was behind XML, right? I mean, like there
Yeah, yeah,
was there was nobody who didn't go from HTML and be like, oh, yeah, that would be useful if you could just use other tags, like
yeah,
um
yeah.
and uh yeah, I mean everybody, every business was like, yeah, let's do that. And uh got
Well,
behind it and made products and made standards and uh then like one random Saturday afternoon, Doug Crockford like throws up a one-page thing on a website that has no authority at all that's just like, I don't know, what about this? And everybody went, oh yeah, that's way easier. Like, um, it fits on one page. I can understand it. It's simple. And, developers chose that. And because we built everything on this XML stack, um, like everything fell down related to that. So that's a shame. But I do think that the HTML5 era of taking a practical approach and how do we move forward by evolution rather than revolution.
That was thrust upon the W3C sort of, membership from outside primarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a good thing. I mean, I was I was involved to some extent, and yeah, I think it was a good thing overall. But
Yeah.
it was hard. These
Yeah.
things are always hard, and I don't think everything that happened was well, orchestrated or well thought out. But it was an interesting period. But
Yeah. The thing that was wild about that is we were just talking about this on a recent Igalia chats where it's like there was this time I want to say like 2007 where they tried to bring HTML back into W3C, and you were one of the editors at some point in there, and I
yeah,
remember I remember there's like this sort of like two popes problem, right? Like
yeah,
who's
yeah.
in charge, where you disagreed on things. And I remember really distinctly this argument about the main element between you and Hixie, and I think Anna as well. Like
And it went on and on and
it
on and
went
on.
on and on and on.
But
And it was,
eventually, when we got things changed, and over time, 4 or 5 years later, it became very much the same as the original as how I'd originally um,
yeah, as
defined
basically
it.
a tag for the ARIA role, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, not just to take the ARIA role, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's yeah. Thinking about it the other way, I always think of semantics first, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was yeah. I mean, it was an interesting time, and there were things that were left unfinished. Business I thought was left unfinished that from what was in the W3C HTML spec that that I could see as improvements in the the HTML living standard. I
Yeah.
just filed PRs and worked with them and got stuff done.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Another one I recall us discussing a few times and going back and forth and getting on was the document outline.
yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, like, what do you think about where we landed with that, where we have the uh like heading level offset? Have you seen that?
Uh, to be honest, I haven't looked into that sufficiently to give you a reasonable answer.
Hmm. I saw that recently that Anna is taking up implementing it, and it's implemented in WebKit, I think also in Chromium. I saw that Anna was taking up implementing it in um, WebKit, and as they're looking at it, they're like, "Oh, wait, I thought this is actually more complicated than I remember us agreeing to." And I'm wondering, like, do you ever have that experience? Like, do you ever see that where like uh, we have some kind of you think you have some kind of agreement, and then you look into it and you realize, oh, that's
Oh
much
yeah,
more
all the
complicated.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That,
things, yeah. I mean, you try to scope, you look at something, you try to estimate, oh yeah, it's going to take X amount of time, but when you actually start to do it, it takes 2x or 3x.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and the complexity levels, yeah. It's all part of the fun though, isn't it?
I hope it
So,
gets done because it's one of those things that until it's baseline widely available, I'm curious what you think about that. Actually, we can come back and talk about that if you want, but um, baseline widely available is, like it's been out there for it's been implemented and deployed in browsers for like 2 or 3 years. So chances of it not being supported are pretty small. Um, Not zero though, which is important. But
so,
like basically for the heading stuff, I feel like I really can't change anything in my site until it's widely available because uh you know like people distribute their blogs through RSS and stuff, and RSS
mhm.
isn't going to run a polyfill or something, and that's the tricky
Well,
stuff that gets bad, I guess. So you lose all the accessibility characteristics and probably the styling and everything if you're delivering it that way.
yeah. So
Yeah.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
If yeah, it's just yeah, the more complex, yeah, the more possibility you're going to have that it's going to break somewhere
Yeah.
for sure. Now, tell us more about what you're doing on the tag. What's the current work? What is the tag? Like I always talk about the tag as if I know what the tag is, and I may know, but I can't remember. So just give us little bit of an overview of the
Yeah.
technical architecture group.
Um, yeah, I mean the technical architecture group I think is supposed to be something of a steering group for W3C and try to look at like the long term, you know, 50 years out kind of view of things. But then to also it's become really a lot of apply that through concrete stuff. Like so basically it's part of the Chromium process that I mean that's just Chromium's policy. You can have whatever policies in other I wish that they did, but most of the sort of innovation proposals come through Chromium because they have infinite money that they spend on standards development. So they try a lot of things and see what sticks to the wall. But all of them in the process have to get a tag review. Um, I think there's more value in the early tag review where it's like, hey, we haven't spent too much time, but here's sort of where we're at and what we're thinking. There's a lot of opportunity for discussion and course correction at that point in time. The
Yeah,
later that it gets, once it's actually shipping in one browser, it's like pretty hard to get people to change it. And if it's shipping in two browsers, then I don't know what's the point in even having the discussion because like it's pretty much reality at that point. Um,
And
yeah.
you still do have or there still is discussion?
You can still end up having discussion in some of those. Even tag is also integrated into the W3C process. So the W3C, every time you move between stages or you get a new charter request, it also goes to the tag. Um, and uh, tag reviews it and optionally comments on it in those as well. So um, yeah. And the tag also is it's one of, well, now three, but really just two in terms of the day-to-day groups in W3C. There's the advisory board and the technical architecture group. And they're just small groups that are elected and appointed, combination of elected and appointed that um, put extra time in toward one of the two questions, one being architecture, the other being the process of W3C itself. So that's the advisory board. And
Sorry, I
those
just
two those two are also involved in since the W3C, Tim was sort of like he was called the director, but it was sort of like I don't want to say benevolent dictator, but like the decider, right? He was the decider. So if there was like if we couldn't agree, if there were formal objections, if there were whatever, then we'd go to Tim and Tim could sort of play the decider role. He was the emperor, you know.
and who fulfills that role now?
Yeah, so now a it's a these councils, formal objection councils. So that's why I was bringing up the AB. So it's a combination of the AB and the tag that hear those, and then we create you know, uh, a verdict and a comment on it. So
How many people are on the council?
too many. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a
Uh,
lot. I was just in a formal objection meeting this morning. I can't really talk too much about it, but it's a lot of
no,
people
no,
and it's a lot of discussion. Um, it was a lot more efficient when it was Tim, that's for sure.
yeah. Well, you mean the sort of time between
Yes.
yeah. So it being decided. Um, so is there any way to speed that up, you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that W3C needs to review. I don't know if you saw, but they just their CEO just stepped down and they have appointed our friend uh, Dom there,
Yep.
to be the interim CEO. So hopefully things trend better. That's good.
So you think it was a positive thing that under the circumstances that they
I think
replaced Seth?
I think W3C needs to make changes. So that is a change. So that's
It's
better
always
than
been
not
the
changing.
case, though, hasn't it? It's always need to make changes, and it does make changes, but there's sort of
Exactly.
always more to be made.
Yeah,
It's an interesting place.
it is an interesting place. Um, all of them are making changes, and like in some ways, the what wig has moved more in the W3C's direction. W3C has moved a little bit in that direction, and they work together a lot better now.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah,
yeah. I mean, the focus has moved a lot, and I really think that at some point the fact that HTML effectively moved, its development had moved, of defining had largely moved out of the realm of W3C was seen by some people as a death knell, but I don't think it's Well, obviously it's changed at W3C, but it hasn't, you know, led to the demise.
I was looking just the other day, and the W3C has a spec dot. Sorry, not the W3C. The Whatwig has spec.whatwig.org that
Yeah.
has the standards that they're under Whatwig, and I think there's 22 of them now.
Mm.
Um, that's uh, that's a pretty good number, and there are some more that are suggested to move over there. So I think it's pretty important to address the reasons for that.
Oh, so you think there's, okay. And how is that going to be addressed?
It's a good question.
Is it some, I mean, from what is it going to be come from the W3C leadership, AB, tag, or combination of all of them?
Yeah, well, so the interesting thing is that the process doesn't give either the tag or the AB any actual power. Um, the powers are mainly in speaking from a position of you all elected us or we were appointed for some reason. So these are our collective thoughts.
Mm,
We agree to spend time that the rest of you don't have to have a smaller council of people to discuss those things. And by nature, it seems you sort of trust us to do this. So it's all a little bit like mm, there's no real power there. Um, so it really needs to come from sort of the membership in the team need to decide what W3C needs to be and make it so. So,
yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think there are things where, like I said, the Whatwig has evolved some toward W3C a little bit, and I think the W3C has opportunity to do the same, to move in that direction, and hopefully, let's see what happens.
Yes. Okay. So maybe now we'll just switch it up a gear and go to the Rogues Gallery.
Let's do it.
I know that's not something you've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
I let
Apologize in
me.
advance to anybody who I don't know.
Okay. So let me just. I don't like doing the Rogues Gallery myself, just purely because it makes it difficult.
To get it
Um,
on the screen.
yeah. Essentially, yes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This is what I prepared before for uh, for Doug, who was going to be on the. But as I say, he would equally. I am sure there's people there that you know, and people that that you may not know, but that's fine because then
I know
there's
you.
yes, I
Yeah.
am indeed there, and I am wearing Patrick one of Patrick's designs that he inspired
Yes.
by his trip to Japan. I
Yes.
like to call it "Thank You for Smoking." And who else could we see?
That is the only person I recognize, to be honest.
I can't. Top left, wearing the uh,
Smiley face hat.
no, the
The
emotionless, the expressionless face emoji hat
yes.
is the original expressionless face himself. That's Dr. David Swallow.
Ah,
Uh,
that's funny because I watched the episode with you and Eric Bailey, and he was also on there, and I was like,
he's
oh,
always on there.
he's
Yeah.
always on there. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who he is.
No,
So
no, it's absolutely fine. I mean, he's somebody who's very dear to me, but he's also, does his own thing. And if, as far as accessibility and usability is concerned, UX, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah. Next up,
I think this person also was on the one with
he was, and you
yeah,
should know him because he's he does stuff at the W3C quite a bit that you
Yeah?
run into. That is Patrick Lauka.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is. It's
Get out
Patrick
of here.
Lauka wearing.
I was Wow, I thought this was that other guy, but I thought I was confident when you put this up on the screen. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get at least Patrick, and I think Adrian has been on a bunch of these. I thought maybe I would get Adrian. Um, but wow,
Yeah, well,
how that
yeah,
he's so small. It doesn't.
yeah, well,
I'm
I
sorry.
can, yeah,
Oh yeah,
okay,
now I can see it's Patrick.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Pat, and this is another shirt from H2MLZ. I've had it available for years, haven't sold a single one. Um, I mean, not even I had bought one. Next up is, see, this is where I get shady. I think her name is Zenobia. I had it. Um, but yeah, she's a person from Poland or is Polish. And
Okay.
I was, the next person along you can see is a guy called Ricky Onsman.
Okay.
And he, I made this shirt for, which is, I'm not going to try. Do you speak any Dutch at all?
I do not know.
Okay, so I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I've forgotten again how to pronounce it, but essentially it means accessibility is political in Dutch.
Got it.
And I I said on somewhere, I think LinkedIn, I said, if you want one in your language, just drop me a line. And this person did, and I created that shirt. I just sent it to her. I didn't ask her to pay for it because if someone has a design idea, I say, hey, go for it. And I said, same thing with the bottom left here. Well, yeah, sorry. Ricky, I sent one because I used to manage Ricky and he's an old friend. Then bottom left corner is a guy called Ian Lloyd, also known as Lloydie,
Okay.
who I work with, and I've, yeah, worked with a TPG as well. And he's wearing one of his own designs, as you can, it's button up buttercup, which I've got for sale on the HMLZ store. Sorry, it's just turning into one big sort of
It's one big
Instagram
plug. Yeah.
advert. And then is another really good friend of mine, a guy called, well, I've been told that his name is Begani, but I've always called him Begani, Mike Begani, and that's
Oh,
all
okay.
I'll continue to call him.
I
And
like his
he's,
mug there. That's on your store
yeah,
as well. That's pretty good. It's
yes, yes. And it
WCAG like
always,
ACDC.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
looks nice.
range of them. There's one with WCAG, one with HTML.
Mm,
So that's how it started. I wanted to make a shirt that I'd seen this guy Denis Boudreau wear, which was a ACDC HTML. That's how I started. This was
I
during
like
the,
it.
the lockdown. Last but not least is this is one of my old bosses, a guy
Wait, we
called
skipped
David.
you. We skipped you.
Oh yeah, well I thought I already mentioned me. There I am wearing Pat's one of because Pat has got we're like battling
Designs.
t-shirt entrepreneurs now, and he's
Ah,
got his
okay.
own site and he does a lot of interesting stuff. I just got another one of his, which was some sort of pixel art skull. He does a lot of pixel art stuff like that,
So
and
you're
he does.
wearing a smoking. You're wearing a smoking
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Do you
It's
still smoke?
sorry, do I? No, no.
Yeah. Because we
No, it's
both,
just
when we met, we both smoked.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I remembered that we did.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, how long ago? That was at least 10 years ago,
Yeah.
more, 12 years ago, a long time ago. Yeah, no, he just, it was a sign that he saw when he was in Japan.
I
And
like it.
then
It's like pixel arty. Yeah.
yeah, I like it as well. It's just a really yeah, it's just a I call it his thank you for smoking shirt
Mm.
because I remember some film about it.
It looks like
Um,
something Jen Schiffer would make.
who? Who's Jen Schiffer?
Ah, I should
Sounds
have brought my
familiar.
own rogues gallery.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, you should look
No,
her
I've
up.
been.
She's very enjoyable. She she worked for Glitch for a long time. And now she makes candles. She makes some, well, not just candles. She makes candles and pottery and um the whole I'm gonna step away from the mic really quick, 1 second, and I'm gonna get you a visual.
Okay.
So these are some candles that Jen Schiffer made. See, that's an egg. See that?
Oh, yeah.
It looks just like an egg.
Are
And
they
then
the sort of candles that you won't actually light because of their,
exactly, I wouldn't
yeah,
light them,
yeah.
but
They're
she,
just,
you know,
yeah,
she
they're
makes
works, yeah, ornaments, piece of works of art.
ornamental candles that are
Yeah.
kind of interesting and different, you know?
So anyway, let's just get this, this last over the line. This guy, Dave O'Neill, used to be my boss, and most of everybody else that worked at TPG from here, which is quite a few of us. And
Hmm.
that he was wearing another, for some reason, he bought this shirt, which is my good friend Johnny James, and it's AJJY accessibility. That that print of Johnny I got from his avatar from a Jira, from the Jira account. It was just,
Nice.
yeah. But you may know that Dave O'Neill has got these full sleeves. It's he's quite a tattooed person. He's an interesting character.
Do you
So
have
anyway,
any tattoos?
sorry,
Do you have
me?
any tattoos?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't at all. I don't. Hold on. Let's just get rid of this. And it's an interesting question, but okay. So yeah. So do I have any tattoos? No, but I do like watching shows about people getting tattoos.
Um, I think Bruce Lawson's daughter is a tattoo artist.
Yeah,
She does some big tattoos, like really big tattoos she does on
yeah.
they're pretty nice actually. Um, I only know that because he going back to the, you know, art of people that I know or whatever. I don't know her. I never met her, but Bruce asked me for her 16th birthday or her 18th birthday to do a drawing of her. And it did. It was actually a nice drawing. It came out really well. And I told him a number of times that I would send it to him as well. I also never sent it to him, but he tagged her on the post and told me that she was also an artist. And I like followed her Twitter account or whatever it was back at the time. And then I saw that he tagged her again and said something about a tattoo. And every once in a while, I go and look and see what her tattoos are and how that's shaping up. They're pretty nice. Yeah.
She's got, yeah. I mean, do you have tattoos?
I don't yet, but I'm going to get one in a few weeks, I think, in Florence. I go every year to uh Italy,
Yep.
where my sister has a place in Florence. And yeah, I'm gonna get one there of fleur de lis, like the Florence one that is a little bit it's different than the French one, but
The only thing, well, the only thing is that I like to see a freshly done tattoo, but most of them don't age well at all.
mm,
They become so, yeah. And I haven't really seen any designs that I like.
mm.
And
My girlfriend has three. One, two, three. Yeah, three.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
They're all nice, I think. They're small. They're all pretty small.
my girlfriend, my daughter's girlfriend has a couple, but they're
Yeah.
very small,
Yeah.
very but I mean, I think part of my conservatism about not wanting to have them myself is because when your kids are younger and they start saying, I want to get tattoos, you just want to say, well, just wait,
Yeah,
so
yeah. My daughter also has a number of tattoos and a lot of piercings.
yeah, my youngest has loads of piercings. She has
Yeah.
eyebrows, ears, and everything. So my older daughter did say she was going to get a tattoo, but she just can't be asked. So okay. I mean, she was talking about it, and then she's had an ample opportunity. I mean, she's old enough now. She's 21. I couldn't tell her
Yeah.
what to do. But anyway,
Well,
um,
I'm gonna be I am 52 and I haven't yet, but I'm going to. So there's still time for her.
oh yeah, there's all the time in the world. I mean, I'm 62, and I
Yeah.
don't think I will. Like, I still think about it sometimes. Just you know, like
Do
having
it.
that something like a HTML5, that classic, but is banner type shield thing because it just consumes such a large part of my life for a
Yeah,
certain
do
thing.
it. Do
But
it,
that
Steve. Do it. And then
sorry,
you can
it's
say that
seared
I
into
egged
my
you into
head.
it.
It's either that or the I don't know if you can see those arms, the loser way arms, um, on the background, on my background. Can you see my background?
I can see your uh
You see
pink
above,
chair.
yeah, above the pink chair,
Uh-huh.
yeah, are two arms like that.
Oh, okay. I thought those were
Yeah,
antlers.
yeah. Well, I was thinking about getting that as a tattoo. No, they're not antlers. They signify many things, but
Oh, okay.
they're arms. Um, Brian, what can I say? It's been an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with you. And there's actually loads of questions that I never asked, but it's just getting to that point where my dinner's almost ready. So I really need to hit
Okay.
the hay. Unless, do you have anything burning you want to throw out there before we shut down?
No, not really. I mean, I would have loved to get to talk a little bit more about like accessibility or Igalia or whatever, but
Well,
we can
okay,
do that
fine.
when you
No,
come on the Igalia Chats podcast.
yeah, but no, please do. I mean, just give me a bit of an overview of Vergalia as well, because I've been interested in that. Please do. Go ahead. I mean, I can edit it down a little bit, whatever. No, well, I won't edit what anything you said, but I mean, yeah, don't worry. Tell me more, or tell me about Gallia, because I really don't know. I mean, I've got a good feeling about it. That's all I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that is really interesting and like reshaped our, history of the web is that like we went from sort of one company has to pay for everything in terms of a web engine to um, this open source model where other people can contribute. And if you can't actually contribute because you can't, maybe you can't even afford to join the W3C long term, you can't afford for, people to do the prototyping, work with the vendors, all that kind of stuff. Um, you can sponsor something. And so Galia works with like lots of organizations to do work in different web browser engines. And
Sorry, do you like you get funding to implement sort of a particular thing, or do you crowdsource the funding to implement a particular
I
thing, or
wish
both?
we could I wish we could crowdsource more. It's really hard, and it surprises me that it's as hard as it is because I thought, like the average income of developers is not super low, like it's most developers can sort of afford to throw a few bucks, and I even encouraged we tried doing crowdfunding for like, hey, here's 5 things we could do. Like everybody pitch money into a pot and like whichever one has the most money, that's the one we'll do, you know? Um, and yeah, I mean, it was
It didn't
difficult.
work.
Yeah, it was difficult. We did raise like $50,000, I think, but um, m the vast majority of that was from just a couple that gave like $10,000,
Right.
um, and with that, we implemented Focus Visible, which
Cool.
was, a way to fix the accessibility problems created by the fact that the Focus pseudo class, um, didn't respect what browsers actually do with focus indicators. And so it would lead to people overriding the default styles and making everything worse for everyone. And so then the net result is that they would follow that up by disabling focus indicators altogether for things where it was really important. So uh,
And what's the support for that across the
it's in
Evergreen
everything.
program?
Yeah, it's in everything now. Yeah.
Well, that's
That was
nice.
a thing that was spearheaded by myself and Alice Boxhall, who also now
Yeah.
is at Agalia, and Rod Dotson. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes.
Um, he um, he left Google. He was at Google, but
Yeah.
he and Alice actually did a like an accessibility course that was made available online that I think is still one of the courses that I like the most out of all of the ones that I've seen. Um, I don't remember where that was, but it was like one of those Google sponsored content.
Yeah, I think I remember it,
It was
but
really nice. It was really nice, really high end. Yeah.
well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I
I
mean
would
those
love if we did more, if we could do more of that. I think that there's an aspect of WhatWig that works, particularly because it is the implementers that are sort of gating the reality checks on it. That is a little bit harder to work in the W3C model because there's not something like that. Sort of anybody can propose something. Nobody's going to go out of their way to shoot it down until it becomes like a real problem. And
I
so
think it works better. The W3C model works better for something like the wake egg than it would an alternative model.
I would love to fix that about it though, because the one thing that the W3C has that the what Wig doesn't have is members, like lots of members who
Yeah,
pay money, you know?
yeah,
And what I would love to see is like, you imagine the CSS working group that has, like, I don't know, 180 members or something like that. Like, it's a big working group. And there were even more interests that used to be there that aren't really there anymore, like from print and stuff like that. And, like they used to just sort of like work on their own specs and uh but if everybody's just sort of doing their own thing, but nobody's actually paying for more than just words, nobody's checking whether this can be implemented performantly, whether, browsers are actually going to accept the pull requests and stuff like that, then it's just a specification, right? Like it's
So
not a,
what, so saying that the current development of CSS is not sort of browser developer or engineer led.
it is now, but I'm saying like there were lots more members that were interested in things and driving things and working things, but they weren't gated by reality, whereas the browser stuff was more. And
Yeah,
so what would be
it,
nice about that is if everybody was paying in their money and saying like, hey, turns out that there are 12 different organizations that don't make a web browser. They're all interested in their own thing. And if we all do that, then nobody gets their thing. But if we can work together to decide which thing is most important of those 12 things, we fund that one, we get that done. And like next year we'll work on your thing. Um, like just some way for those organizations to have the reality gate of like, it takes money to do
Yeah,
these things, and we need to make sure that we have commitment or else we're just kind
but
of
that's not the
everybody's.
only reality gate as well, is it? I mean, there must be other factors that go in apart from the fact that, well, A, we need money, or B, it's in the browser makers' interests. I mean, it can't be always about it being in their best interest, because that's what you have where you have a organization which is only run by the vendors.
But there are things that the vendors aren't prioritizing. So I give you an example, like MathML is a thing that the browsers they don't prioritize. Like they're uh, just not interested enough to do the work because it doesn't help anybody's bottom line. Um, but it is actually very important for lots of other organizations. And so,
Yeah,
like
makes
those,
mathematics more understandable to a wider range of people.
yeah. And so there are many reasons to be interested in that, from, education standpoint, from a print standpoint, from like science standpoint, from like government sharing standpoint. And so if those organizations pool their money, they could fund that. And, the browsers generally are happy to have that. They just don't want to spend their money on it.
Hasn't there
So,
been some that haven't Hasn't there been some implementation of that stuff though? I thought I saw some, or is it just, intent to implement all?
oh yeah, MathML is like MathML core is a thing that's in all the browsers now, but none of that work has been funded by the browser
Right.
vendors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Igalia has been the champion of that.
And where
And
have Igalia got the money for that from?
many, many places, including two donations from individuals that amounted to like $150,000, like just people who were like,
Yeah,
yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's great work. I mean,
so
yeah.
it's important, it's like, who is it important to is the question. And I think that's what I'm saying. The thing that W3C has is lots more people they have things that are important to them, but they're not able to like even make that thing happen. And so like we need better ways to get them to work together and say like as a working group, this isn't getting done, it's not getting prioritized. There are like 12 of these things. So rather than everybody fail at 12 things, let's pick one thing and work on that thing together and get it
I'm
done and
trying
then work on the next thing.
I'm trying to understand, because what I thought you were saying was this, that we've got to get more people to join the what WG working group, or the standards body, or whatever. Now, how does it was, how would that work, and how would that change things?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the like a thing that we could do at the W3C, like or we could do it in a group that's neither of them even, but it's just like the nice thing about W3C is they have specs that we work on, they have an incubation process and just a way for those
Oh,
groups
okay. So
to.
yeah, I thought you were talking about moving more standards work to the what WG, because the W3C wasn't doing the job.
I think W3C is doing a job of getting people to join with money and getting them into a room to talk about things, but then they lack the here's how you take it to the really serious of getting it implemented in browsers. Here's how you get browsers interested enough to spend the hours and hours that it takes to have those conversations. Here's how you get implementations done. Um, yeah, I would like to see those groups, work on like pooling their money into some kind of way that guarantees that nobody is just rowing the boat in their own direction for no reason. And, how do we how we work to get real progress on these things, like to make people understand that it's not just free, right? Like it's like none of these browsers are going to do it for free unless that's what they choose to prioritize. So
Yeah.
if you have a thing which is, print or something about podcasting or, there are many, many, many things that people have proposed over the years that they just can't get anywhere. And a lot of the reason they can't get anywhere is that the browsers are like, yeah, maybe it's a cool idea. I don't know, but we're not going to spend our money on it. Um,
So what about EU? Like one of the things I saw today was this EU based sovereignty or whatever,
yeah.
Office 365 alternative,
Yeah,
or
we do a bunch of stuff with the the organizations like that. There's the Sovereign Tech Fund and there's
yeah,
NLNet. There's increasing things like that. Even the I mean, I don't know in this current hellscape how real it is in the US still, but like at least under Biden, there was some kind of like idea of a fund for like securing open source and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
there are other like governmental organizations that and funds that are very, very valuable for this kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah.
But it needs somebody
Um,
to drive it. Yeah.
do you like knowing the Vivaldi from from what I've heard from Bruce anyway? It sounds like it's got some sort of similar structure that the companies may be totally off, but that's what I got the idea of. Do you work with those European-based companies as well to try to do stuff to boost the European sort of unity or whatever? Like,
Yeah, no, totally 100%. I mean, we're also involved in some like Eurosky stuff. Um yeah.
yeah, the Euros guys, yeah. I
Yeah.
changed my from B Sky to Euro Sky.
Yeah. Yeah, we're interested in a lot of that stuff and
Yeah,
helping out and some of it, is being funded by those organizations. So that's all good.
excellent.
Cool. Hey,
Um,
thanks for having me on, Steve.
yeah, sorry I tried to, cut you quick there. I'm just tired. I'm telling you, I've
No,
been
you don't
trying to
have to.
listen
You
to.
can cut all that, in fact, and just leave
No,
it so
no,
we say
I
goodbye.
enjoy, like, I am glad that you pushed me and we persevered because it was interesting what you had to say, and I'll have to listen to it again um,
Yeah.
in order to. But let me just stop this for the moment. But yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. Now, what I forgot to say to you, which